Let's talk about the difference between sauerkraut and kimchi. These are two very popular fermented vegetables, and today we're going to talk about which one is better. Sauerkraut has a much more mild taste. Kimchi is very spicy. It can be very hot. Kimchi is made from a certain type of cabbage called Napa cabbage, radishes, garlic, chili pepper, ginger, and salt. Obviously, right there, if you have more vegetables involved, you're going to have more phytonutrients. It also has more of a diversity of different microbes. Now, with sauerkraut, the dominant microbe is something called Lactobacillus plantarum. Now, of course, that's also the dominant microbe in kimchi as well. This microbe is very interesting because it can survive in very harsh environments. It can not be affected by the acid in your stomach. They can survive and other microbes cannot. And therefore, it can help us because it balances out more good bacteria than bad bacteria. That helps make this mucus barrier to prevent pathogens from going in there and creating leaky gut. It has the ability to increase serotonin. 90% of all the serotonin in your body is made in the gut. Serotonin is also the precursor to another hormone called melatonin. And melatonin is a very potent antioxidant if it's inside your cell, but it also is something that helps you sleep at night. If we switch over to kimchi, kimchi helps cultivate a very unique microbe that's not in sauerkraut. And what this unique microbe does is it inhibits pathogens, like some of the microbes that contaminate our food. Listeria is one of them. Kimchi's microbe greatly inhibits that pathogen. What's really unique about this microbe as well is it inhibits not just pathogens, but also funguses and yeast in certain molds. And some people even take diluted drops of the liquid in kimchi and they spray it in their sinuses. However, if you just take raw kimchi, just by consuming it orally, it can indirectly help the sinuses because it can travel up through the respiratory tissues. Kimchi also survives in cold temperature. This is why you can keep it in the fridge and everything is fine. And the same thing with sauerkraut as well. If we flip over to sauerkraut, sauerkraut has a little bit more of a certain microbe called L. brevis, which has a lot of benefits to the gut and even to the immune system. Both sauerkraut and kimchi also make something else, something called bacteriocin. Bacteriocins are natural antibiotics. They're not going to be a broad spectrum antibiotic like you would get if you went to the doctor, which they just wipe out everything. And the devastation of broad spectrum antibiotics are just destroying our guts. And this is why if someone is resistant to antibiotics, they develop super bugs because they took a lot of antibiotics. Now they have microbes that are resistant to antibiotics. Sometimes sauerkraut and kimchi can help that situation. Also, if we take a look at something very similar between sauerkraut and kimchi, we have cabbage. Number one, it's a cruciferous vegetable, so it has a lot of different phytonutrients. It's loaded with glutathione, which is good for detoxifying things in the body, anthocyanins, which help longevity. But there's also something called vitamin U, and it was named by a researcher in the 50s who isolated this compound from cabbage. What does the U stand for? It stands for ulcers, protecting against ulcers, helps you repair the inner tissue of your digestive system, as well as decreasing inflammation. This is why it's so good for ulcers as well as gastritis, because it directly affects the cells that make gastric acid. So anytime you have an ulcer or especially gastritis, think cabbage, and as well as any inflammation in the gut, like IBS. Now, on top of that molecule, you also have another thing that cabbage has, and that's glutamine. Now, glutamine is really good for leaky gut. It also helps fuel the cells in the colon. And it just so happens that glutamine is also in red meat, bone broth, and eggs. And so there's some serious, amazing health properties in both sauerkraut and kimchi. Now, there is a few more benefits to kimchi. Not only do you have more of a diversity of microbes, you also have fermented garlic, which is an amazing compound. It does all sorts of things. It's anti-cancer, it's antimicrobial, powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, really good for your immune system. There's a compound in ginger, which if fermented, converts into several other stronger anti-inflammatory molecules that also have amazing digestive properties as well. And one other interesting thing about ginger is that it helps nausea, or if you're nauseous. And also fermented ginger gives us a lot more digestive enzymes as well. So it's good for anything related to bloating, indigestion, gas, things like that. The compound in chili pepper is also enhanced when it's fermented. So this is going to be really good for inflammation, pain, circulation, metabolism, and also fat loss as well. And if we look at sauerkraut versus kimchi with weight loss, kimchi is a lot better for weight loss. And now we know why, because it has certain properties that help with blood sugar, insulin resistance, and anything that does that is going to help you lose weight. So it's probably why the Korean people are so slim. I don't know if that's true, but the Koreans got the idea from the Chinese long ago. I think it was in the 17th century. The Chinese were fermenting vegetables back then, and then the Koreans created kimchi. As you can see, both of these products have an amazing health potential, but kimchi gives you even more benefits than sauerkraut because it's obviously, there's more vegetables in that product. Now, personally, I cannot consume kimchi because it's just too spicy, but I will consume it because I know it's good for me. And this is why I consume more sauerkraut. And one last benefit of kimchi compared to sauerkraut is that kimchi has even more vitamin C than sauerkraut, which is interesting because just within 1 cup, you get over 700 milligrams. That's 10 times the RDA for vitamin C. Well, apparently kimchi has more vitamin C than even sauerkraut. Make sure if you're going to consume either sauerkraut or kimchi is you have it raw, because that's where you get the benefit of the microbes. When they pasteurize it, they heat it, they kill it, and they put it in a jar, and it sits on the shelf. You don't want to consume that because you're not going to get the benefit from the microbes. You might get the benefit from other things, like some of the phytonutrients and the lactic acid, but you're leaving a lot on the table because all those microbes can greatly help us. Since these fermented products are so good for your digestive system, you should probably check out my video on the digestive system because there's a lot that can go wrong, and this relates to these two products. So check out that video right here.